Oh, yeah, that's right. We live on a Monday, Locked On 76ers, Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta. I know Keith is just so excited with Media Day coming on Friday as the 76ers have camp fastly approaching. I know we're all excited, but it's two things. What are the Sixers going to tell us, but what do we really want to know? I don't think those two things, unfortunately, are going to match up, but we'll try to break it down as best we can on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So it's always twofold, Keith. It's always twofold, unfortunately. And we do thank everyone for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. For your next listen, make sure you guys check out all of the Locked On sports content, your team every day. I want to do this in two segments here, Keith. First off, what we want to know. What are the pressing questions with the Philadelphia 76ers as camp starts up later this week? Media availability and media day is Friday. The pressing questions surrounding the Sixers. Now, I know a lot of people are going to jump to Joel Embiid's health. Sure, but I want to have the medical staff up there, which legally they can't do. But I know that's the real pressing question. But when it comes to overall expectations from what this team expects from certain players on this team, what do you think the pressing questions are going into media day on Friday, Keith?
Well, the number one, I mean, I guess the pressing question is, and you said it, like the biggest question is going to be around Joel Embiid. Where is he at? Like, how healthy is he? We're seeing videos of him at the practice, at the workouts, but we don't see any videos of him working out. And as of a week ago, I was told he wasn't working out. So, I mean, he's not working out. He wasn't participating in the scrimmaging, right? So if that's the case, when is he going to be able to? Is there a timeline for him to play in games, right? So to me, though, that's the number one question. The second question is, to me, is Quentin Grimes, right? That's something that's big too. Like, we need to know, like, right now, it's September the 22nd. The team is going to have media day, September the 26th on Friday. Is Quentin Grimes going to be available? I mean, if he's not at that particular time, what's the deal with him? I mean, are you going to move on, or are you just going to give him, is he going to take that qualifying offer? Or are you still trying to create some space to give him the money that he wants? So to me, that question is even bigger than the Paul George question. You know what I mean? Like, it's Joel Embiid and Quentin Grimes, in my opinion.
I 1,000% agree. Let's go back to number one. Let's go back to Joel Embiid. I think you hit it on the head there. I would use the word plan. What's the plan? Because, again, they're not going to say, hey, Joel Embiid's great. Like, they're not going to set the bar that high. Even if he starts somehow practicing on the first day of camp, not just working out, but actually practicing, getting in the scrimmages, wearing the right jersey and all that stuff that we want to see him in, to actually practice with the team and run with the team. But what's the plan? Because Daryl Morey, I'll give him credit for this. He put himself out there at the draft. When he was asked about Joel Embiid, after they talked about VJ Edgecombe and all that stuff, he put himself out there. Yeah, we expect Joel Embiid to be ready for camp. We expect Joel Embiid to be ready for day one. We expect Joel Embiid to be ready to play. Okay. All right. Is that still the case? At Summer League, he was asked a very similar question. He answered in a very similar way. Are we still on that path to Joel Embiid being ready to go day one of the regular season? Because we haven't been told anything else. The only update that we got when we were expecting an update was Joel Embiid having a video released now a week and a half ago at the Sixers practice facility in Camden. But other than that, there's been no update. So do you think the Sixers can lay out a plan at least for what they're looking at with Joel Embiid? And yes, I do understand that the part of that plan is going to be like, we're going to take it slow. We're going to take it slow. How do you see that plan?
I think they could lay out a plan. Do I think they will? No, right? I mean, but yeah, they could. Like, here we go. Like, Joel Embiid, you say, see, this is what they tend to do. Like, they'll say, Joel Embiid is not practicing. He'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Well, what that means is typically he's set to return in 2 weeks, more often than not. But they'll just say it that way, because if he's not set to return, then it's not regarded as a setback. But yeah, a plan would be great, and I think that's another posing question. Like, okay, well, Kawhi Leonard only played in 30-something games last year. He didn't join the team until January. Are you guys trying to follow that same plan, right? Are you going to follow that plan? And the thing is, when you look at it, it was because, they did that plan and Kawhi didn't even play in the Olympics. So, you say, are you guys willing to sacrifice some early games just to make sure Joel Embiid comes back in the new year 100% or close to 100% as possible,
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great way to put it. When it comes to Grimes versus Paul George, I absolutely agree with you. Like Paul George, I think we kind of know. I mean, yeah, they'll ask the question. You guys will ask the question on Media Day about Paul George, what his status is right after Joel Embiid. That line of questioning, I'm sure the gears will shift to then Paul George gear, and everyone will be talking about Paul George. But yeah, like he's gonna be here. They're not going to trade him between now and camp and now and the start of the season, so that's not happening. So, what is the plan with Paul George after he had his knee scoped? Is he going to be reevaluated in the coming days, or have you already evaluated him? Have you already heard good news from the doctors about his availability? Is he going to be able to hit the ground running and all that? I think the bigger question though is Quentin Grimes, because this has been dragging on now for the entire offseason. And it's held up conversation about starting fives. It's making people ask more questions about whether or not he's going to be in it, whether he's not going to come off the bench, whether or not BJ Edgecombe gets in there, Jared McCain, whoever. Just is Quentin Grimes going to get paid starters money? And then obviously that's a bigger question, I think, than the Paul George scenario, because we know that it can't be answered with Paul George just yet. But the Grimes situation might get a little bit more light shed on it.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Because see, here's the thing that people don't understand about media days. And, media day is kind of like NFL preseason football, right? Like the Giants, like real rap. Like, I mean, seriously. No,
turn the knife already.
I mean, it's the truth, because so what happens is everybody gets up there and everybody talks about what a great, quarterback like Russell Wilson is going to be, or like you get up there and you say, okay, we signed these new players, and people are going to ask Tyrese Maxey, what did he work on, right? And Tyrese is like, yeah, I worked on this aspect of my game. I gained weight. They're going to ask Dembona, how much did he learn from playing in with the Euro Cup, whatever it is, like playing on the international basketball slate, and everything is great. Everyone gained weight. Everybody got bigger. Everybody got better. But like you said, you really don't know until they actually play the games. Like you said, like Paul George, what did you do? Oh, I did this treatment. I was in the gym. I worked on my strength. I feel great. I feel closer to being the Paul George of 2 seasons ago. Like we're ready to go. Everyone's healthy. Well, we'll find that out. It's like there's 30 teams in the league. All of them feel the same way for the most part, right?
Yeah, it's like all the good vibes. Yeah,
it's all the great vibes. All the great vibes.
Fresh start, new season, day one. Last year, terrible. Trying to lose on purpose at the end of the year, so you get a better pick. Now that better pick's here with it. Exactly, it's time to party.
We're ready. We're ready. So now there's only 2 questions. There's only 2 people that you really want to talk about for the most part. I mean, because the other stuff is you'll figure it out. You'll find out for yourself when they actually play.
Mm-hmm. So we're going Embiid. We're going Grimes. We just talked about Paul George versus Grimes. I'm going to go ahead. Grimes that Paul George would be number 3 in the line of questioning there, just in terms of the pressing questions that they might actually give you something on. Number 4. This is talking about the biggest questions. The 4th biggest question, Keith, I'm going to defer to you on this. I have something in mind. I just want to see if we're on the same page. What do you think after Embiid, after Grimes, after Paul George? What do you think's next? What do you think is the biggest pressing question, the 4th biggest pressing question going into this media day on Friday?
I think, in my opinion, and it's close. There's 2 close, but the one that I'm gonna go with is Jared McCain. How is he going to be utilized this year? But if I didn't go with that one, my default one was going to be the backup center position, right? You know what I mean? That was going to be that way. But yeah, I mean, Jared McCain, and I think what that is, that has to do like, where is he at in his return to play, right? We'll figure that out. But also you say, okay, assuming that you do have Quentin Grimes, right? Right now you have 4 guards, a rotation. You got Quentin, you got VJ Edgecombe, you got Tyrese Maxey, you have Jared McCain. My question is, hey, how do you plan on utilizing Jared McCain this year? Like, what is the role that you see for him? We all know that things are going to find a way of figuring his own self out. But at the same time, how do you head into training camp? How do you plan on utilizing him? And then on top of that, I know that he's been out several months, but there's going to be some rust. Do you plan on bringing him along slowly? What is the plan for him, in regards to return to play and in addition, a role on this team?
Love it. Okay, so you and I are in the same ballpark, but I think you're on the first baseline. I'm on the third baseline. Our seats are in just different sections, okay? Because it has to do with Jared McCain and really the smaller guards and all the guards you really have on this team. And that is, all right, so if we're talking about Embiid, we're talking about whether or not Grimes is here or not, and then we're also talking about whether or not Paul George is available to you. So those are the top 3 things. So for me, number 4 is, it sounds like you're going to have, again, a pretty inconsistent lineup. Not that you're rooting for it as a franchise, not even that you're betting on it. You're betting on quite the opposite, as a matter of fact, as a franchise with the money you've put out there. But what is this team going to look like? Is there going to be one constant way to play basketball, or are you going to drastically have to change things when Joel Embiid is available, when Paul George is available, or is there going to be one focal point on this team for a desired 82 games no matter what, and is that focal point really Tyrese Maxey? Now, I know they're not going to give you every little detail on this, but how much of a challenge is this for a guy like Nick Nurse to have the talent that he has, maybe coming off the bench or in the starting lineup, depending on how they organize it, when you have 2 huge pieces here that are not reliable, is the bottom line. We'll know more about the health later, but I think we all know that even if they're both 100% healthy, Keith, the Sixers will still want to manage their workload throughout the season. What that tune is, I don't know what that tune is. I don't know if it's 65 games, 70, 50 games. Nobody knows. So with that being said, how drastically is this team going to look? How different is this team going to look when it's Tyrese Maxey as the leader, whether it's Joel Embiid, whether it's, and I mean on the court, I don't mean rah-rah, I mean on the court leading the charge and everything. How drastically different is it going to be with those different versions of the 76ers we're going to see in the upcoming season?
It's going to be drastically different. But here's the thing, though. And if you're Nick Nurse, you're in a tough spot because, you only had 15 games with the big 3 together, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey. And you want to get as many games with those 3 on the floor together as you can, because you didn't give yourself a chance to see what you had. Like what we saw is how Paul George and Joel Embiid couldn't mesh together on the floor, right? It just didn't work out well when all 3 of them played together. But you got to figure that out. So that's the tough spot. So what you need to do is, and again, you go and you'll do stuff and you'll have things where, Maxey is going to be leading the show. Maybe, if Paul George is playing, have him be a point forward, so to speak, when Maxey doesn't have the ball. But ideally, if you're Nick Nurse, the one plan that you have is like getting these 3 guys out there, and it will be unfortunate if Joel Embiid is unable to, practice early on in training camp, because that's where you have to get the work at during practice. We know in the NBA, they don't practice a lot, right? They don't have a lot of practices. So if you're Nick Nurse, you got 2 problems. It's when can we get these guys on the court together to get this plan? Because as you said, like all the stuff that they do with Maxey and without with Maxey and PG and all that stuff during the regular season, that's great. If Joel doesn't play, that's cool. But if Joel comes back in the playoffs or late in the season, it doesn't mean nothing because you're not going to play that way. So you need to get as many reps as possible. So to
I
me,
agree.
that's the number one plan, getting these guys healthy and getting them out there playing.
Yeah, I had painted a not doomsday scenario, but pretty close of, I don't even care if Joel Embiid plays till January, just as long as he's healthy, and you're like, hold on. These guys are going to have to learn to play with one another. They got to get those reps in.
Exactly. See the difference between Kawhi and Joel. Like now, you can say what you have with Kawhi, but for the most part, they didn't have any major new additions to blend in. Like they had, Norman Powell, a guy who was there before, who stepped up. James Harden was there the year before, who stepped up. I mean, who went back to becoming an all-star. So you knew in a way what you had with Kawhi. The biggest thing with the Sixers is just you don't know what you have with Joel Embiid and Paul George. And the little sneak peek that you got of those two playing together, it was a struggle for Paul George. So you got to try to get that ironed out, man. You need some reps. You need a lot of reps.
All right, that's what those are the questions we want answered. We've told you what we want to hear. Next, we're going to tell you what we think we're actually going to hear. Because, look, every team does it. Every sports franchise does it. Straight answers are not a thing. But we're going to try to explain what we think the Sixers side of the story is going to be when it comes to Media Day on Friday, practices getting underway, and Joel Embiid and Paul George's status. All that and more when we return on Locked On 76ers. Back after this. I'll tell you what, a lot of community members are going to need them 5-hour energies heading into the practice facility in Camden. And how about this? 5-hour energy just gave caffeine a much-needed flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Now that's versatility. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most about it, the variety, the big taste, and the tiny shot. You can take it anywhere. You can throw it in your work bag, throw it in your go bag, have it in the cupboard at home, maybe even keep one in your driver's side, in the car. That's where I like to have it. Long road trip, it's perfect for it. So enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store or online at 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5, hourenergy.com, or on Amazon today. 5hourenergy.com. All right. We always know, Keith, we're not going to get the straight answers. So they're not going to lay out the perfect plan for Joel Embiid. They're not going to go over his x-rays. We're not going to talk to the doctors. We're not going to hear from the doctors. If we're lucky, we'll hear from Joel Embiid himself. But as far as the Sixers go right now, what do you think their explanation is for Joel Embiid's status? How do you think they explain that to the crowd?
They'll probably come out and say, and I'm paraphrasing here, saying it's fluid. What was the term they used? They're going to be like left knee injury management, right? That's what they're going to say. I think they're probably going to say, left knee injury management. Now they may come out. See, the difference is what happens is, last year it was one of those things where I think they kind of tried to draw the line in the sand, so to speak, where they say, hey, look, we're going to talk about this once. We're not going to talk about it anymore. This and that. He'll come back. When Joel gets back, he gets back. The problem is that it persisted. There was always something else happening, right? So you can't do that. Now, basically, what they should say is, look, Joel's probably going to miss a large portion of the season, I'm not going to say a lot. I'm just assuming if he does. Like, Joel could come out and play, right? For all we know. But if they feel like he's going to miss October, November, maybe come back in December, say, hey, look, do his return to play. We expect him back on such and such date. They're not going to say that, because if he doesn't come back at that particular time, then people are going to say, was there a setback? And they don't want that out there, that there was a setback, right? Mm-hmm. So here's the deal. What's going to happen is it's going to be similar to last year. Like I remember last year, Joel says, "Oh, I'm not practicing. I'm not this. I'm not that." Then we come to find out, I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. The team's practicing. There's no Joel. Nick, where's Joel? Oh, he had a doctor's appointment. Oh, okay. So he has a doctor's appointment. So is he going to join the team on the trip? We don't know. Okay. Next thing you know, a couple days later, Joel's not coming. He's not coming. So in a way, it came across as if they were lying all the time, right? So I hope they don't do the same thing, because now this thing has become a bigger problem, if you know what I mean, like a bigger story, not a problem, but a bigger story. So they can't afford to keep saying management. Like you may have, even though they probably will, I think that you have to be a little bit more transparent, being as though, like, you said something about Daryl Morey. Like you said, Daryl Morey said, yeah, Joel's going to be ready to play, right? He also said,
we expect,
okay, we expect Joel to be ready to play. He also said that Paul George is excited about this upcoming season. He's been putting in a lot of work, yada, yada. 2 days later, we find out that he messed up his knee again and he had to have surgery. Then we find out Joel Embiid said, I'm not coming back, right? So, it's one of those things where you look at it and you say to yourself, y'all got to be a little bit more transparent, because no matter what you say, people are thinking that it's coach speak. They're thinking that you guys aren't telling the truth. That's what it is.
They would never say this. They could allude to it. They could beat around the bush a little bit. But if they're not going to give us a plan, like we talked about in the opening segment, then I just want to hear, if I'm Daryl Morey or I'm Nick Nurse, I just want to hear we find the workouts that Joel Embiid's been able to do here at the facility to be very encouraging. But when it comes to anything specific with the injury, Joel Embiid, the floor is yours. And Joe has already said publicly that it's well, I absolutely agree. Yeah, you're right. But Joel Embiid has it out there that he's in control right now. He's not listening to anybody else but him and his camp when it comes to this injury. He said many times over in the ESPN article, he had trusted the Sixers in the past, or was forced to trust the Sixers in the past. He said, my foot still hurts. My foot still hurts. My foot still hurts. Your foot's fine. Your foot's fine. They go to the doctor. His foot's still broken. So Joel Embiid has the trust issues that we highlighted when the article came out on ESPN. The other part of it is that if he's going to take that ownership and that responsibility, well, then if you're the Sixers, let him. You could be as optimistic as you want. You're right. You're absolutely right that they're not going to say, we expect Joel Embiid still to be ready on opening day. And then if he's not on opening day, then there's a setback. They're not doing that. But if Joel Embiid really is in control of this and he's really making the call on this, then Daryl Morey, just keep singing the same tune that you've been singing. Same thing with Nick Nurse, and let Joel Embiid inform everybody as to what his status is. Because ultimately, as things are in the NBA now, which is certainly not what I like, but it's the way it is, the player is the one with the information. It's not like it used to be where the player clearly works for the team. It's totally reversed now.
Yeah,
so
it is reversed.
On that note, here's my question for you. Do you think we hear from Joel Embiid on Friday?
I think we will. Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I think. Yeah. That would be crazy. For a player to not speak on media day, I assume there'll be a lot of fines, right? Yeah, you just don't do that. Now, maybe if you're not there and something happens, okay, maybe you can do that, right? But nah, Joel, and I think that this is Joel Embiid speaking is probably going to be one of the biggest stories of the day. Because we got to realize he didn't speak at the end of the season. Like once he got injured, Joel Embiid vanished, like he was gone. Yeah. Now, again, he did the ESPN interview, but I'm talking about in regards to a media press conference.
Exit interviews, all that stuff.
None of that. He was gone.
Well, here's something that I find. Well, first I have to thank you for putting the thought, because I had forgotten about this. I wrote it down because left knee injury management. That's what Joel Embiid. That's what Joel Embiid was out with last year. Left knee injury management.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking I thought it was dumb when you started hearing the lower body injury. You know, hockey did it, then basketball, then football started doing it a little bit. Doug Peterson with the Eagles started using that lower body stuff. And we're like, dude, there's too many bettors betting on this stuff. You got to be more specific. So with Joel Embiid and the left knee injury management, I just thought this is all going to be over very soon. They're going to shut him down before we know it. So yeah, I had forgotten about that. Now, when we come back, I do want to break down our latest edition of Grimes Watch. And then if there's any encouraging words we can hear from anybody else on Friday that we're looking forward to hearing from. We'll talk about that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. And now it's time to tell you about Monarch Money. You guys like having money? Huh? Monarch Money helps you manage that money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, their 401ks, their investments, properties, all that stuff. Monarch Money helps you track all of it. That's where it comes in handy. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or computer. That's Monarch Money. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. And if you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is here for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get characterization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money with Monarch Money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Music to my ears. So make sure you guys take advantage of what Monarch Money is offering right now, especially when you use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with promo code LOCKEDONNBA. So, Paul George, think we'll hear from Paul George on Friday, Keith?
Yeah, we'll hear from him. We'll hear from PG. Yeah, I get it. I don't know what you're saying. Go ahead. Who's the next person?
Tyrese Maxey. Just to hear from Tyrese Maxey. I would assume they'll trot him out on an elephant or something. They will be so happy when he starts talking because everything's going to sound good from him, of course. And then Oubre, I'm curious when it comes to the trade conversation and Andre Drummond and all that. Oubre, he gets talked about, or he talks.
He'll get talked about. Drummond will speak. Yeah, Drummond will speak. Oubre will talk. Yeah, both of them.
I assume you would have interrupted me by now, but has Quentin Grimes been signed yet, Keith?
Nah, but you know what? These used to be my favorite things growing up, and maybe they should give me. Maybe they should Doritos as a kid. Maybe they could give me sponsorship. But
yeah,
you know, it's weird. Like, for the 76ers to get out of this just rut, I hope that something is signed before or agreed upon before, Friday when they have media day. It's another. We talk about it over and over again. Another distraction. Now, again, I get it. You don't want to overpay for this guy, especially the financial situation you find yourself in. And it just seems like the fact that Kelly Oubre had a player option, the fact that Andre Drummond had a player option, those things kind of like set you back a little bit, but not as much as this contract you gave the other guys.
Right.
But you traded for this guy knowing that he was going to want the money. Just did. Now, you never, at that particular time, you didn't know if you were going to get that draft pick. Like if they wouldn't have got Quentin Grimes, believe me, I believe just because of the financial situation that this wouldn't be as drawn out, right? Just because, Quentin Grimes is going to make $11 million this year. So, that's money that you would have had to give to him in addition to the other stuff that you would add to that. So, but to me, again, it's one of those things where it's a bad situation. And I know the financial struggles that you have, but at the same time, you're trying to win and you got to get this thing resolved one way or another, because this is another player that if he does come, whenever he does come, if he doesn't come now, another player you have to add to the mix in regards to incorporating players. At first, we're talking about Joel, talking about PG, now Quentin Grimes. Like, he's another guy that you got to add. So to me, if I'm the Sixers, I'm hoping and wishing that we can get something settled one way or the other prior to Friday.
Absolutely. I hope that happens. His name is Keith Pompey. My name is Marc Farzetta. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. That's Locked On 76ers. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow. We're going to focus on VJ Edgecombe, what his first media availability will look like as a member of the Philadelphia 76ers on Media Day. We'll also talk about his role and what Hall of Fame guard he met recently in his offseason travels. We'll talk about that, as well as, Keith, you actually had it as number 5 on your list, the backup center. We'll talk about the battle for that position between Bona and Drummond on tomorrow's show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Locked On 76ers. See you guys tomorrow.